Hello viewers, welcome to CodeForAny. Fruit Markets Node.js inside today we need to see this here the creating for the shop owners API we need to develop here. First of all, we need to making this here the access token checkings functions we need to develop here. Now we need to write down here the function and we need to give this here the name as a check access token and we need to give this here the pass this here the helper object first parameters. Then after need to give this here the response object. Then after need to get this here the callback event. Need to returning this here the true or false. Need to return here. And then after the required tabs, the optional parameters need to if you check this here the required types needs like this here the this only access this admin user shop owners only access this API and only user access this API. Like this need to validations we need this here the fourth parameters we need to put this here the required types. Now need to write down here the helper.dlogs and we need to print this here the headers we need to print here header headers dot access tokens we need to print here the tokens need to first here. Then after need to check this here the helper dot check parameter validates we need to check here. We need to pass this here the response dots helper object. We need to pass this here the helper objects and we need to pass this here the check these parameters. We need to pass here the access token like here. If here validates then to get this here. Otherwise need to missing parameters. We need to returning this here the response. We need to back this here. Now we need to write down here the DB inside the query like here. We need to set here. So already need to OTP verify. So we need to call this here the select query. We need to copy this data here and we need to paste here. Yesterday we need to write down like this query else parts like here and we need to like this. We need to writing this here the functions and we need to pass this here. Now need to change here only we need to check here the access tokens and to get this like this data need to get here for this API like here and we need to pass this here the header object pass need to access tokens sorry for that access tokens like this and we need to set this here and to get this here the all informations of the related to this user so need to get informations or this data and also we need to remove this here the access tokens no needs this value and we need to get like this data and also need to check here the is user status all levels need to put here and we need to set this here the status need to put here like this and conditions we need to check here status always need to set here the active need to set here set one like we need to configurations for this and need to needs here and after need to get this here the length need to check here if need to check here the required tab is not equal to blank then to check here else parts need to returning here and if you not gets any results then to need to write down here the response.json and we need to call this here the status set here 0 and we need to pass this here the message and we need to write down here the access denied denied and unauthorized user access so need to write like this here the text here like this set here I need to configure this here and we need to set this here now If here the valids, then we need to call this here the returning these functions. We need to call back and we need to pass this here the result zero index value. We need to pass here for the results. Now we need to check here if conditions is required. Types we need to get here equal to. Need to check here the result and we need to check this here the user type like here. Then to pounds, then to valids. Otherwise need to unauthorized access. Need to returning this here. Need to copy this response and also need to write down here the one code for 04 and we need to give this here comma. Now need to copy these functions and to paste this here and this is the access token checking API we need to developing here the done here. Now we need to another API we need to develop for the here managing here the main categories like here the dry foods, vegetables, fruits like these types and to in futures need to increase this here. Then to providing this here the API we need to managing this here the insert, update, delete as well as need to select, we need to list and we need to active inactive API I need to develop here for this here. Now need to making here first of all the insert the new main categories API we need to develop for here the shop owners only. Now we need to write down here the app.post. We need to write down here and we need to call this here the API slash app slash. We need to call this here the API names. We need to give this here the need to write down here. Maybe admin is good for this API. Need to change this here the status as a admin. So need to set this for the shop owners. Shop owners means need to admins you access need to given this here the shop owners because he can manage here and to operations need to data need to easily. That's why need to give this here the admin access. Now we need to which we need to creating here first of all the insert the new categories need to develop API. We need to write down here the COD functions. We need to write down here CUD. Now creates we need to perform here first of all. So need to write down here the main category head and we need to pass here the request and response need to get here for this API. Now we need to developing like this here. Now we need to first of all the check here the print this here the helper dot dlogs and we need to print this here the request dot body need to print here. Then after need to save this here the request body inside here the request object dot body and to save this body. Now we need to check this here the access tokens. We need to check access tokens and we need to pass this here the request dot header objects. We need to pass here. Need to pass here the header objects. We need to set this here. We need to pass here the header objects any API to pass like this here request dot headers and maybe we need to fix this here the typo helper object helper object help header objects header dot access tokens like this. We need to write down here. We need to fix this here the typo. Now we need to write down here the response object. Then after we need to call back. So we need to get this here if valid then to get here the user objects. We need to return this here for these functions and also need to check this here the required tabs. So need to check here's now database inside the columns for the shop owners which types need to assign for this database. We need to checking here for structures. Need to set here the three types means here the shop owners and admin user need to use this here the access types. We need to only access this API. Now this is need to passing this here and now need to check here the this category already created so or not. So need to verify here. Need to first of all now need to check this here the parameters. Need to call this here the helper dot dlogs and we need to get this here the not dlogs, sorry for that. Need to check here the valid parameters. Need to check parameter valid. Need to functions calls response objects need to give this here the and then after the request objects, and we need to check this here the name property we need to check here so always. And then after, so we need to give this here the if valid these functions, we need to return this callbacks valid if, otherwise need to directly terminate this executions, and to fail response need to returning this servers. Now we need to call this here the db. First of all, we need to check this already exist this category, and we need to check here. Now we need to write down here the db select query we need to use here. Now we need to go here this database, and we need to select here the database here, and to go inside here the main category tables, and to SQL query need to get this here the like select query, need to copy this data here, and we need to paste this here, like need to configure here, and we need to remove this here the created and modified dates. We need to remove here no needs. Now need to clean this here, so also need to remove this here the status not set here, and category id need to return in this here. Now need to give this here the check here the main category equal to, need to question mark, need to like this gets here, and also need to check this here the status, and status columns also need to check here verify. Then after, so need to pass this here the request object dots, need to pass this here the value as a name property, need to set here, and status always need this here the not equal to 2, need to set here, need to set here the not equal to 2. Like we need to configure here 2 means here the swap relate need to use for this database every place. Now need to errors and results need to get here, like here need to getting here, like now if here's gets here the errors, that means here the database inside the query inside the errors, that's going to print this here the throw HTML errors, and to write down here the errors, and response need to return this here the terminate executions for these functions. Now we need to get this here the results length, we need to get this here the more than 0 means here the already database inside the add this category, that's why I need to returning this here the response. Else response already added response need to return this servers, like need to internal logic need to set this here status by default set here the 0, and we need to give this here the message, we need to set here the message already, maybe typo here, so we need to fix this here already, and added like here's else parts. If not added, then to call this here the db.query, and we need to insert query, we need to call here. Now need to go against here the database, now need to select here the insert, need to remove this here the main, also need to remove this here the all things, so need to set here like this data status also remove here, and we need to remove this here the this all things, no needs, only give this here the name property, and to create this category cut here like here, and we need to create insert query like, and now need to pass this here the parameter request object dot, so need to getting this here the name property need to assign here, and then again so need to get this here the errors and results objects need to returning this here like here, so need to getting this here. Now if here the gets any errors, then to throw this here the errors like here's, if we need to get here the result, then means here the successfully database inside the insert this data. If here the not getting say results, then to respond this here the fail, so need to copy here the fails response, need to return here, paste this here, and need to write down here the msg fails, need to returning this here. Then after, if here the success, then need to call this here the API, and to set here the status set 1, and need to set here the message, need to write down here the like this here main category added successfully, returning this message, we need to write down here for this API, and also need to returning this here the payload, and we need to return this response. We need to set this here the main category ID. We need to set this here the result insert ID. We need to pass here, as well as we need to set here the main category name, copy here, and we need to paste this here. We need to call this here the response object dot names. Need to returning this here the payloads, and this is the quick. We need to give this here the response. We need to again not fire this here the select query, because we need to always get this here the insert results, and to give this prop names we need to return it. That's why I need to, without firing here the query, we need to directly set this value and to quick response the servers and to reduce the server loads. Now this is the insert query. We need to write down here, same as we need to creating like this here the update. We need to call here. Now we need to write down here the copy this query, and we need to paste this here for the updates, and we need to call this here the update category updates, and we need to pass this here the main category ID. We need to pass here these parameters like this. We need to set this here, and we need to calling this here the select query. We need to set here. We need to remove this here the select query and to call this here the update query. Now need to go here, and we need to remove this here the ID, and also need to remove this here the status created dates no needs. So need to clean here, and also need to give this here the question mark, and here so need to set here the question mark, and we need to set this here the category and question mark and conditions, and we need to check also here the status not equal to cut this query here, and we need to put this here for this data. And first of all we need to pass this here the name here, and then after we need to set this here the request object dots. We need to pass this here the main category ID, and need to give this here the 2 here. Set here the question mark not equal to 2 means deleted not deleted. We need to like this. We need to setting here. Now need to remove this here the affected row. So need to check here so affected row, and we need to set here the more than once. Then we need to successfully updated. Need to write down here the main category dated like this. We need to returning this here the message else parts. We need to set here the else message need to set here, and we need to done this here the update categories API need to set here. Now need to save this here for this data. Now another API need to make for the delete main category. We need to again we need to copy this here, paste this here. Now remove this here the name parameters, and we need to call this here the API names main category delete, and we need to set here only passing this here the main category ID, and we need to call this here the status. We need to set here, maybe need to forget here the now. We need to fix this here above query years, because we need to not pass this here the here insert update, and we need to pass here the now like here. Otherwise need to get here the errors. Need to fix these errors. Need to see this here. Now we need to update here the status for this here, and we need to set this here the 2. We need to write down here for the delete. Need to write here, and to category the main category deleted like this messages. You need to pass this here, and to creating like this here the delete category API we need to develop here the done. Now another API we need to develop here the active inactive. Need to paste this here, and now need to check is active flags. Need to pass here for the key is active like here. We need to, if here the inactive, then to pass this here the 0. If here the active, then to pass this here the status as a 1. So need to set here, and we need to active inactive to this here the active inactive API, and we need to set this here the status not equal to 2, and we need to update this here the status. Now need to pass this here the request object dots need to give this here the is active, parameters need to pass this here, and this category active you need to check this here is request object dots need to check this here equal to active equal to 1 means here the active, otherwise inactive. Category main category active and main category active deactive inactive successful. Copy like this here the message deactive, maybe inactive is good. Like this we need to making like this here the active inactive status we need to manage these years and to save these years. Now need to create here the another types we need to get this here the list post API need to develop here. We need to copy this here the this query, need to insert add API we need to needs here. Now need to copy here and we need to paste this here, and now need to pass this here the main category list, and like here need to remove this here the parameter checks need to remove here, not need these conditions, need to clean here. Then after so need to and to pass this here the status, also manage this here the status, like here main categories names need to set here the remove this here the main categories, and also need to remove these parameters not deleted, so only records need to get here, and we need to cut this data, and we need to remove this here the all conditions no needs need to clean here, and to paste this here now need to give this here the success and message no needs need to directly set here the payloads and to return this here the results of this data. And this API are the done for the main category list for the admins who need to developing this done this year. So need to total spy API need to develop here the main category add, update, deletes, and active inactives, and list API need to develop here. So if you like this video, please give the thumbs up. If you're new user, so please subscribe my channels and press the notification bell icon. You can get every new video notifications and awesome content. If you have any question, so please write down the comment sections. I will help you and sort out your issue. Everyone have a nice day. Goodbye and take care.